Now, it appears that the two tools have two fundamental components. The one addresses mandatory issues, i.e. documentation, billing for services provided, items designated in the D&D handbook. The other component appears to address the more person-centered elements, as you were saying. Can you explain a little bit more about how that works?
Sure. You know, the bottom line is that the system is very complex. And there are a lot of requirements. You have technical requirements, you have regulatory requirements, and then you additionally have philosophies. You have, what is the desired outcome of the program? Who is the ultimate customer of the program? And how well are we serving those individuals and truly impacting their lives? There are certain things that have to happen in order for Florida to stay in good standing with the federal government. If CMS is coming in, they want to know that we have systems in place, and we have systems in place to evaluate those systems as well, that people are meeting the minimum requirements, that people are justifying their billing, that people are meeting the training requirements and meeting the regulations. What's in the Medicaid handbook? Are we necessarily meeting all of those requirements? And a lot of those are more of a yes/no type of answer. Does Aaron have this piece of paper that shows he attended this training? Right. Yes or no? So that half of the process is still set up in a met, not met situation. So as were the previous tools that we use. So we basically will look at those and work with the provider as part of an interview process, as part of a record review process, and identify, are those things present or are they not present? And then we'll score them in the met, not met manner, and then we can process those, we can report on those in a more percentage manner. Provider met 80% of those items, because again, it's the yes, no. The more, I would say, maybe more complex process, more person-centered process, is the outcome-oriented component. And that's elements 1 through 6 in the WISC and elements 1 through 8 in the core process. And that process really begins with the individual interviews. So it's not necessarily the interview of the provider, per se. It's the interview of the individuals receiving services. How can we best evaluate the provider? Well, let's look at the end result of their product. Let's look at what the people who are receiving services from them are saying about that product, and whether their outcomes are being met, whether the results they want to see in their lives are being met. So that becomes a process, a kind of a multi-layer process. We first meet with the individuals to have that discussion. We then meet with the support coordinator or the provider. We may involve family members, involve other folks who are important to that person, other service entities, to really get a handle on what is needed by the person, what is desired by the person, and then what is being provided. And then ultimately, we're looking at how that provider is setting up their systems. So it's not just a matter of, John was served well by this provider, or the provider has this system to meet John's needs. But how does the provider set up their overall organizational practices to be able to serve the 40 people they're serving, or the 140 people they're serving? So even though we're gathering information at the individual level, when we shift it into working with that provider as part of the consult process, we're looking, how does it apply to everybody you're serving? And how do you get into those habits of using those good systems to be able to ensure that you're meeting people's needs? So then we ultimately report on that in a slightly different system with the achieving, implementing, emerging, not emerging. Right. And people have asked about that process. How does that compare to the met, not met, and how does that play out? We report on those differently. In the report itself, we'll break it down. One area is for the achieving, implementing, et cetera. One area we're putting in the percentages of met, not met. But the reality is, if you're looking at things like how well does the provider know Aaron, that's not a met, not met. Do I know Aaron? Well, I know you. So that's a met, yes. But the reality is, I know you on some level. Maybe I know you at the emerging level, but I don't know everything about you to the extent that, if I wanted to better provide services for you, I would need to understand your needs a lot better than I do right now. And as I understand those needs, as I apply and implement strategies to serve you, then you kind of move up that ladder of evaluation, into the implementing. If I'm ultimately making an impact on your life, if you're seeing results in the service delivery, results in your life, and you're meeting the goals you have in life, then we're looking at the achieving level. So it gives you kind of a provider, a continuum of growth, a sense of, what do I need to be able to do to better meet the needs of the individuals I'm serving, and what are the steps I can take to get there.
Right. And speaking of scores, people did notice that on the APD website that you had the new STARS program that was on there, giving them a rating according to STARS.
Sure.
And now all of a sudden that's gone off the website. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. That will be going back out onto the website. We're just kind of working through making sure that everything is working properly and everything is linked properly. The concept there is we have the FLDDresources.org website, and we report on what providers are active in the system. It's really intended to be a process whereby individuals and families can go in and say, I'm looking for a particular service in a particular part of the state. And I can pull up providers based upon, with the search engine, based upon the city or based upon the zip code and the service type. What we have had on there previously is some basic information about the providers. Have they met their training requirements? Have background screenings been in place? If they're a provider where we do a desk review for them, were they compliant with the desk review process? So some of the basic yes-no type things. What we wanted to do is really expand upon that and put in things relating more to the achieving, implementing, not emerging, etc., but do it in a way that was easily understandable. If you go to the movie theater, or you're reviewing a movie before you go, and you may see 1 popcorn, 2 popcorn, 3 popcorn, based upon evaluations. And it gives you a chance, if you trust, that kind of system, it gives you a chance to see, well, yeah, that's a movie I'd want to go see. What we've established in this is 4 stars equates to achieving, 3 stars equates to implementing, 2 stars to emerging, and 1 star to not emerging. So someone could go on and look and see 3 or 4 providers and have the opportunity to say, well, this one has shown on the outcomes side of things, on the knowing the person they're serving, etc. They've really are scoring at a higher level. So that system will be back out there. It's just kind of the next evolution of a public reporting system, and hope to see that out there again soon.